Tunaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunaketi kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako. Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye
Tonight, the show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. Well, a lot is taking place so fast. Therefore, everybody must work hard to stay on the cutting edge as far as making sense of our politics is concerned, and of course, remaining on top of all matters. Tonight, this is Sound Candy Talk Live. 72 people have cast their vote already, and only 42 have liked the video, justified. So from the look of things, the majority of Kenyans think the government need to up their. Glad to report we are back on the main channel as well, and therefore we are asking everybody to join from wherever you are. Sound Candy Talk Live YouTube channel, and we are also live on X as well as extended to Facebook.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back for another amazing episode, another amazing moment. And I am Shadizo. Tonight, I want to welcome you for another political open forum show whereby we'll be having a conversation, both tricky and all kind round conversation for the what has happened during the day. We are live on Sound Candy Talk Facebook, Sound Candy Talk YouTube, and also Shadizo on TikTok. I will welcome you all. Feel free and feel part and parcel of this. Tonight, we'll be having the conversation revolving all around and all across on what has happened during the day. So what I urge you, please join up the show and be part and parcel of this as we even having a great conversation tonight, because tonight is a night whereby we'll be aligning and putting everything in order so that we can have a great and a better day. So I welcome you all. Please share the live and invite somebody to watch with us. We are moving on swiftly. In the day, I will bring out the headline of the day and the outline of the day. One of the outline of the day is all about the story of Gachagua, which will be having a conversation and having a debate over it. And apart from that, we'll still have the story of Trans-Nzoia governor, which has been released today and has been charged out with all what has been going on. Apart from that one, the headline of the day, we'll be checking also another stories that have been hitting up the headline of the day, and we're having the great conversation together. So those who want to join up the show, use the link inside the studio and be part and parcel of this as even we are walking the journey together. And I'll be also shouting out for the people who will be joining up the show and people who will be having the great conversation with us tonight. Team TikTok, I really love you. Please continue sharing and continue tapping the screen as we are having the great conversation with Team TikTok. I welcome you all. Please continue watching, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing and clicking the share button so that everyone can be able to get this as even we are moving on to have this great conversation.
You are watching Sound Candy Talk Live.
Welcome back. We'll begin with the stories that have been hitting up the headline. One of the stories that has touched me today is a story all about the story of the one pastor who has been, after graduating, he got messed up. The story of abduction is still going on, and the rate is getting up in illuminating or in alarming rate. And one of the pastors tonight has been reported that is missing, and because the reason why the pastor is missing, the reason is not being stated out clearly, but they are saying that the pastor is missing. We'll be checking out this news outlet, what we discussed, and then we'll having the correct conversation over it and having the analysis over it. Because when we are checking out the recently or for the past few weeks or the past few months, the rate of abduction or the income of the abduction has been so great, whereby many people have not have safety precautions, or they haven't been keen enough to have a good or a well-kept environment for themselves. But tonight we are seeing it's going to an extent whereby even a pastor get to miss up. It first began with the Gen Zs, later is developed to even the chips in Narok, and later it developed to other people who also get messed up, and this now is going crazy to other elimination, whereby there's also a pastor missing out. This is so serious, and this is so sad. But we'll be having also another conversation to add. With me inside the studio, I'm having the Kibali on the other side of the studio, who will be joining up whilst we're having the great conversation. But what I want to urge you is, please join up the show and let us have the discussion together. And please, the number of watching is still low. Let us increase it up and let us welcome everyone, be part and parcel of this as we bring our nation to the analysis and to the point whereby they will have a good and bigger conversation towards this all. Team TikTok, I appreciate for those who are joining up the screen. I see Lois is inside the building. Thank you for joining us. It's been a minute since I host you a little bit. But before we roll up or we load up, I will welcome Kibali Launch so that he can say hi to us as we are continuing. I don't know how we'll work, but it seems that I'll have to use my headset so that we can be agreed together with Kibali. Kibali, how are you? You can just use my mic. I think Kibali is having a little bit with the issues, but we think we are good. I will give the chance today to the team TikTok to say hi to us, one of the team TikTokers, and then we'll be joining up. I'll be bringing also them on TikTok. See, Lois, how are you? I think Lois haven't get us yet, but you're still moving on. Thank you for those who are sharing up. But first, let me give out shout out for the few people who are watching us as we are moving on. Let me begin with a man called Hope Bless. Thank you for joining. I see Bwex. Thank you for joining up. I see Magi. Thank you. Namwana Muto Najita Nyeri. Thank you for joining up. I see somebody called George Pablo. Thank you, George Pablo. Hey, please continue sharing your invites and continue sharing your comment section I'll be having. I see Javan, I see Lois, I think, I see Shiro Joy. Thank you for joining up. I see Vinny. Thank you, Vinny. He's in the building. I see Abu Hamza. Abu. Thank you, Abu. I see it's Mrs. Joanne. Mrs. Jens. And also other who are joining up. Please let us join up and let us have the great conversation tonight together as even we are moving on swiftly. I think Dr. D is trying to launch up. I don't know if the internet will be learning how for him to enter inside the studio. Today we must hear from the Kiswahili from Mwenyewe. This is the one of the guys speaks Kiswahili until I feel like, oh yeah, you have to go back to school to learn Kiswahili. I think I appreciate Dr. D for that. He always challenge me, but it's good. So I want to take this chance and see that one of the pastors that has been missing in action. This is what is so sad, because we didn't expect that the whole of abduction will go to this extent, whereby until even a pastor is being abducted. This is so serious, and it's one of the stories that I'll be having the checking out. I'll be looking towards it tonight. Let us watch out this as we are beginning the great conversation with everyone.
Meanwhile, residents of Kasarani in Nairobi took to the streets today to protest what they say is
Na tukiangazia mengine ni kwamba familia moja kutoka kijiji cha Mwea, kaunti ya Kirinyaga, sasa inataka asasi za usalama kuisaidia kumpata jamaa yao aliyetoweka mwezi uliopita kwa njia tatanishi. John Kinyua Murango alikuwa akiendesha shughuli za kuhubiri katika kaunti ya Marsabit kabla ya kutoweka ghafla. Na kama anavyoarifu mwanahabari wetu Laura Otieno, familia hiyo sasa inadai mhubiri huyo alikuwa ameripoti kuhofia maisha yake.
Katika kanisa la SDA Ngurubaini, kaunti ya Kirinyaga, ibada inaendelea huku sala za leo zikiwa kuhusu usalama wa John Kinyua Murango. Kinyua mwenye umri wa miaka 44 aliondoka nyumbani mwezi Machi, sio tu kutafuta riziki bali pia kueneza Injili. Hatua ambayo familia yake ilitarajia itakuwa mwanzo wa mwamko mpya, sasa imegeuka kuwa jinamizi.
Na tukafanya sherehe hiyo tukiwa na great hope kwamba huyu ataingia katika mission na asaidie watu. Lakini sasa tumeshikwa na futaa kuona ya kwamba ameshikwa tena nyara, hayuko kazini tena, na kwa hivyo ni huzuni mwingi zaidi.
Amekuwa kwa masomo na alimaliza last year na tukafanya graduation on November ikiisha, na sasa aliripoti kwa kazi huko Kate on date 10 March na kutoka 24 April amepotea.
Jamaa zake wanadai kuwa Murango alikuwa akihofia maisha yake, ila hakueleza bayana kiini cha vitisho hivyo. Kwa sasa familia imebaki katika njia panda.
Tunaomba katika kwa hisani ya serikali yetu, maana tunafanya maombi kama sisi washiriki, lakini serikali maana ina mkono mrefu, iungane nazi tuweze kutafuta huyu ndugu yetu arundi katika kazi na arundi katika familia yake.
Laura Otieno, runinga ya Citizen.
This is what is happening and this is what is not happening, and it is what it is because this is everything and all around of what is going on. So if we can reach the point where that the pastor can disappear, this is so that the matter is so serious, and this is so that we are not moving on well as the Kenyan or as the nation. This is one of the stories that has touched my heart so much, and I decided that I will check to what's inside it tonight. Because if a pastor can get disappeared and then there's no clear evidence or clear information where the pastor has gone, this is a matter that we have to bring on board and speak it as the nation or speak it as Kenya. I would like to hear from your opinions too, and to hear from your side too. Please go in the comment section, put a drop or drop the comment section, and be also listening to you. Also, Team TikTok, I'll be reading and also be displaying also your comment section towards this, and I'll also be glad to hear from you. So I would like to hear from everyone else on the comment section. What can you speak about this? What is your opinion about this? How do you say if a pastor can disappear? What do you say if a pastor can get missing and then there's no one knows where the pastor is gone? And this is after just graduating, going to work. And the way we have been seeing the incidents, somebody just messed up. When he disappears, he found him or her dead, and we get the body, whereby this is a bad sign that our nation is going on. Meaning that our security level is still a little bit low. So we ask the Kenyan or the government to improve on our securities and also make sure that the alignment of everything goes strictly according to the alignment of it, because this is serious and this is getting out of hand. I would like to hear from you, please. I invite you to the studio. The link to join up the studio is on the comment section. Just click it and allow Natembeya to configure your audio and your video too, and will be part and parcel of this as you are moving on swiftly. I welcome you all. Feel free and feel part and parcel of this as we are getting on and on. Thank you for those who are still joining. Please let us do this as we are moving together swiftly and continuing together.
You are watching Sound Candy Talk live.
Thank you and welcome back. And tonight we are having a conversation, and I thank you for the team TikTok. They are doing a good work. Also other teams, they are doing good work. Thank you for it is Mrs. Jones. Hey, thank you for just liking the video. Thank you for sharing also, and thank you for being part and parcel of this. Team TikTok, Team Sound, Team YouTuber, thank you for those who are still joining on the YouTube side. On YouTube side, I can see Willie. Thank you, saying hi, Bernard. I can see Esther. Thank you. Also, Team YouTube, Team Kidogo Tonyanalala. It is Team Facebook. Team Facebook, we are a little bit low, but we will keep up and going, and we'll keep on the pace going on and on as we are having this conversation. Tonight, I have also met another one young man who has done something amazing. And I hope we'll also get the report that the way that EBC can bring everything to a standstill and have a good and great, they can be voting from home. So Gen Zs wameamua kwamba tutapiga kura tukiwa nyumbani. I want you to watch out this clearly, and then you'll give me your response on the comment section also too, and I also want to hear from you too.
Hello Kenyans, I'm Abdi Hussein, and this is my development ballot box. This one is going to allow voters to vote directly and to register from their phones. When you enter, you're going to add your selfie, your ID number. Okay, let me add my selfie. So this selfie is to help you to vote as you. No one can impersonate you. You're going to add your ID number as I'm demonstrating here. I'll write also my full name. I'm going also to write my birth date. So basically, this is going to allow Kenyans to register as a voters and vote at the comfort of their homes. No insecurity, no long queues, no mistrust in election. So I'm going to select my county, which is Mandera. I'm going to select my constituency, Mandera East, and the county assembly is in Mandera. I'm going to select township ward, and then I will register. After I register, voter registered successfully. So I am registered as a voter successfully just within 2 minutes using my phone. Those are my details, my name, ID, and everything. I'm going to continue to vote. All the 6 political seats are here: president, governor, senator, and all. All right. So you're going to press. Let me start with member of parliament, member of county assembly. All right, as you can see, all the applicants are here. I will select my applicant of choice. I will cast my vote. So for my vote to be verified, I need to scan my face. So it's secure, it's tamper proof, vote confirmed. And I'm going to continue the same way to select each political aspirant of my choice, and whenever you are done, okay, I'm going to select here. So whenever you select, we must scan your face to verify that it's you who is voting. And this system is going to allow Kenyans, to vote for the rightful leader that they want for their country, the leaders who are going to bring change, and this is nothing that is going to be tampered with. By the way, this ballot box is a blockchain-based election platform, tamper-proof, and no one else can personate you. And this thing is a game changer, and it's going to be a game changer for the election in our country. So I'm going to vote the last. I'm going to select. I've selected Umul Khair here. I'm going to scan my face. For a vote to be verified, I need to scan my face. So when you are done voting, ballot box also has a live vote counting section, whereby you are going to see, live vote countings of each and every candidate that you have selected. Live, and there is no long wait for results, The election start by 6 a.m., by 6 p.m. close, 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m., the winner, who won and who lost. So, guys, this is the only way us Kenyans can get change. This is the only way. This is the best way. My name is Abdi Hussein. I'm a tech specialist.
Wow, this is one young man decided to do the miracle that is not I think like IEBC should go the direction, because this is the truth, and this is one simple means that we can use to register and also vote as Kenyans. So please, I want to urge you, let us impress this and let us give other ideas, and also other young men who have the different ideas that how we can be voting without struggling. We can vote from home and we can verify our votes. It's good. Let us do it so that we can vote as Kenya and bring our nation to a standstill, whereby we will be the best nation that without having a controversy. And we will also know the result before the end of the day. Because if I can vote and I can see that 70 people have voted on my side, this will be good, and this will be the amazing time, so that we can know that you have the results with you. This is another taking or another turn that will appreciate Kenyans if we will take the same turn. So if we're having other ideas too, which we can raise up together as Gen Zs and bring these ideas all together, so that we can bring our nation to alignment and bring everything to a right concept, on the right trajectory, and where we'll have a good and great opinion too. As we leave that, I want to check out one amazing story on my outlet lines of one amazing governor, governor from Trans-Nzoia. We call him Governor Natembeya, the governor who works. Governor Natembeya has been released today with a bond, and we're having the conversation also to that side, which leads to the poll question today. Please make sure and also contribute to the poll question. Please share your opinions too, and also you are allowed to vote on the poll question too, as well as liking the video. Let us check out the story of Governor Natembeya as we are moving on swiftly, because Governor Natembeya, the story of Governor Natembeya has bring other people to a standstill, whereby others don't have even words to speak. This is the story of Governor Natembeya.
TV, this is The Explainer with Yvonne Okwara.
Njoki Shege is our sign language interpreter. Let's begin tonight with Trans-Nzoia Governor George Natembeya, who has been released on a cash bail of 500,000 shillings after pleading not guilty to corruption charges. However, in a ruling issued by the court, strict conditions were imposed on the governor, including a directive barring him from accessing his official county offices for a period of 60 days. Citizen TV's Ben Kirui reports.
Tuesday morning, after a night in the custody of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC, following his dramatic arrest on Monday, Trans-Nzoia Governor George Natembeya was arraigned at Milimani, facing multiple charges, including corruption, conflict of interest, and embezzlement of public funds. The Directorate of Public Prosecutions, DPP, opposing his release on bail, raising concerns that the governor might interfere with witnesses or tamper with crucial evidence.
It's a likelihood because of that influence. There's a compelling reason you must deny bail. And the standard of proof is on a balance of probabilities.
I also argue very, very respectfully, Your Honor, that you give him a free bond. The governor will go nowhere. We all know he lives in this country. He has rendered serving services to the nation, and there's no way he can leave Kenya for another country at home.
I was last in a criminal court defending somebody 20 years ago. But this matter made me extremely agitated, and I said, I will come back to the criminal court to defend somebody. Not because of his status, because we can't allow a country to degenerate to a situation whereby the criminal justice system now is used to harass opponents. That's wrong.
Rise to the occasion and show those who are in power, who are in executive, that your powers can be challenged.
3 questions for dissemination have commended themselves as follows.
Chief Magistrate C.N. Ondieki dismissed the bail objection, ruling that the prosecution had failed to present sufficient grounds to deny him bail. He granted the governor a cash bail of 500,000 Kenya shillings. As part of his bail conditions, he has been barred from accessing Trans-Nzoia county offices for 60 days as investigations continue.
The first accused undertakes not to interfere with witnesses and or evidence. Roman 2. In order to allow EACC to secure evidence and witnesses, if any, or if there is further evidence to be secured, the first accused is prevented from going to his office at the county headquarters for a period of 60 days running from today.
We have no doubt at all. I, for one, have no doubt.
According to the charge sheet, the alleged offences occurred between January 2023 and April 2025. Investigators claim Natembeya benefited financially through 3 companies with close personal ties to him. One of the firms is reportedly owned by his close associate and company director, and allegedly received county contracts worth up to 3.3 million Kenya shillings. The case is set for mention on June 3rd. All day of court proceedings and legal tussles between the prosecution and the defense marked the climax of Monday's dramatic events. The governor, though not in custody, remains embattled as he fights to clear his name amid corruption allegations. Ben Kiroi, Citizen TV, Milimani Law Courts, Nairobi.
That's the story of governor, and I don't know what is happening, but let us get it.
TV, this is The Explainer with Yvonne Okwara.
Njoki Shege is our sign language interpreter. Let's begin tonight with Trans-Nzoia Governor George Natembeya, who has been released on a cash bail of 500,000 shillings after pleading not guilty to corruption charges. However, in a ruling issued by the court, strict conditions were imposed on the governor, including a directive barring him from accessing his official county offices for a period of 60 days. Citizen TV's Ben Kirui reports.
Tuesday morning, after a night in the custody of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC, following his dramatic arrest on Monday, Trans-Nzoia Governor George Natembeya was arraigned at Milimani facing multiple charges, including corruption, conflict of interest, and embezzlement of public funds. The Directorate of Public Prosecutions, DPP, opposing his release on bail, raising concerns that the governor might interfere with witnesses or tamper with crucial evidence.
There's a likelihood because of that influence, there's a compelling reason you must deny bail. And the standard of proof is on a balance of probabilities.
I also argue very, very respectfully, Your Honor, that you give him a free bond. The governor will go nowhere. We all know that he lives in this country. He has rendered serving services to the nation, and there's no way he can leave Kenya for another country at home.
I was last in a criminal court defending somebody 20 years ago. But this matter made me extremely agitated, and I said, I will come back to the criminal court to defend somebody. Not because of his status, because we can't allow a country to degenerate to a situation whereby the criminal justice system now is used to harass opponents. That's wrong.
Rise to the occasion and show those who are in power, who are in executive, that your powers can be challenged.
3 questions for determination have commended themselves as follows.
Chief Magistrate C.N. Ondieki dismissed the bail objection, ruling that the prosecution had failed to present sufficient grounds to deny him bail. He granted the governor a cash bail of 500,000 Kenya shillings. As part of his bail conditions, he has been barred from accessing Trans-Nzoia county offices for 60 days as investigations continue.
The first accused undertakes not to...
This is what is happening, and this is what it is, and it looks like it is. With me inside the studio, I'm seeing Kibale on the other hand. I don't know why the problem is light, but I feel like Kibale, let us go on. You can mute your video, then you'll mend your audio. You need to hear from you. What can you speak about your governor, Governor Natembeya?
Okay, kama nitasikika iko sawa. Nasikika?
Unmute.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Go.
Watu wataniona najua.
Okay, let's go.
Lakini ni mimi tu. So, I was to say, mimi hakuna mwanasiasa mimi naamini yeyote. Hata ndio maana unaona kama ni wabunge mara ya kwanza
wanaingia hawana lolote, hawana chochote, lakini wakifika hapa siku 30 peke yake watu washanunua magari makubwa. So in short, hawa watu wote wamefanya ufisadi. So kama kesi ya nanio ya Natembeya ikuwe nzuri, ikuwe halali, ikiwa hana makosa yoyote, mimi najua hawa wanasiasa wote wako na doa. Lakini shida, kwa nini nakubaliana kwamba ni issue ya siasa tu? Kwa sababu gavana Natembeya hayuko upande wa serikali. Kwa hiyo sasa akianza kupinga hivyo, ndio maneno yanaanza hivyo. Sasa hivi hata wale magavana wote wako katika mrengo wa Ruto na Kenya Kwanza, wote wako na doa. Kwanza hao ndio wameiba sana, lakini sasa hizi unaona wamekuwa weupe kabisa kama pamba, hawana kosa lolote, hawapelekwa chochote. Lakini kwa sababu Natembeya anajaribu kupinga serikali, labda ideology zake haziendani na za Ruto ama za afisi, wacha tuseme tu afisi ya serikali, kwa sababu afisi ya serikali zozote wanapata serikali tawala, ndio maana tunaona gavana Natembeya anaandamwa hivyo. Sasa mimi niko na kauli mbili. Number one, issue ya Natembeya gavana ni ya kisiasa, ndio maana wanajaribu kumshindilia, wanamfinyilia ili wamuumize, aona iwe mikono aseme Ruto tosha ama Kenya, serikali ya Kenya Kwanza tosha. Na ukifuatilia, I think nani pia ametoka jana, anaitwa nani huyu, Salasi. Unajua watu wote wawili wako katika chama kimoja cha DAP na wote wanapinga serikali na wote walikuwa wamekuwa ndani. Kweli machafuko gani ama matamshi gani kama saisi Salasi sasa ameongea maneno machafu gani yenye anashinda Oscar Sudi? Na Oscar Sudi yuko salama, anatembea tena na kiburi na madharau, anaongea shenzi kabisa, lakini sasa hivi yuko huru. Lakini kwa sababu Salasi ameongea kitu kimoja hivi, ishafanya nini? Alikuwa anamtia kasoro. Na hivyo ndio gavana ninio na gavana Natembeya. Na niwarudishe nyuma kidogo tu, ilikuwa huyu gavana aliyekuwa wa Kakamega, Wycliffe Oparanya, yeye pia karibu ashikwe, akamatwe, akaitwa, lakini vile wakati alinyenyekea akainua mikono akasema Yesu ni Bwana, walimtunuku kazi, wakampatia kazi, akaanza sasa hivi ni mweupe kabisa. So Natembeya sisi nikasema chochote, amefanywa hivyo kwa sababu ya kisiasa, na wanasiasa wote mimi najua wana kasoro na deal zao zote huwa zinakuwa chafu. Hivyo tu ndo tunavyosema sasa hivi tu.
Umezungumzia kwamba deal zao zote kuwa chafu, na umesema kwamba ni hii hali ni ya wanasiasa, kwamba tunang'ang'ana kwamba tuweze kuleta siasa zaidi, ila tusilete mradi, tusiweke mambo wazi. Wewe unahisi kwamba kuna kitu ambacho wanajaribu kufunikia ambacho wataki hao watu waseme?
Kwamba tu kwa sababu wanataka kitu tu ni kwamba wanataka Natembeya arudi. Unajua sasa mimi mkitaka mtanipiga mawe. Saizi President Ruto are unpopular. Even the party itself is unpopular. So na unajua watu wameanza kujipanga mambo ya 2027. So unatafuta njia yoyote ya kuinsult za watu. So kinachofanyika ni kwamba wanatafuta watu, na wamekuja kwa sababu mlima saizi uliteleza. So wanataribu Rift Valley yote iseme Yesu ni Bwana, Western yote iseme Mungu alifufuka, na Nyanza wanaamini kwamba Raila amekuja na kila kitu kwenye kapu. So sidhani kama kuna kitu chochote kimejificha, lakini what I know, mtu yeyote ambaye anasema Ruto hana lolote ama serikali ya Kenya Kwanza iko na kasoro, hivyo hivyo utajaribu kutafutwa maneno. Na unajua watu wengi wamepinga tu nini. Mimi hili jambo kama nani angekuwa ananisikiliza angekuwa angezungumza kitu kidogo, that is Wetangula and Mudavadi. Sasa hivi unaona kuna magavana wamefanya machafuko mengi sana kutoka Nyanza, but hawagusi kwa sababu wanajua Raila atawatetea. Sasa hizi angalia watu wa mlimani wakijaribu kufanya hivi, wanajua Gachagua ndio huyo ako so loud and bold anatetea. Lakini sasa kama watu wa Western hawatasimama hivyo tutaendelea kufinyiliwa hivyo tu. So mimi sidhani kama kuna kitu kinafichwa. Mambo ni wazi, hii issue ni ya kisiasa na wanataka kwa sababu tuseme hata kama nani Natembeya ni mbukusu, lakini wanaamini Trans-Nzoia iko Rift Valley. So wanataka Rift Valley yote ikuwe ni block for Kenya Kwanza. Na unajua najua iliwauma sana kwa sababu gavana kutoka kukua kando ya Kenya Kwanza, that is hakupita na Ford Kenya, na vile vile hayuko UDA, ni wa DAP na ilikuwa katika Azimio na bado iko katika upinzani. So hiyo lazima italeta kelele mpaka waanze na hivyo. Unajua kufinywa, acha by then, wacha nikwambie Danio Shadizo, huu ni mwanzo tu. Watu wanaenda kufinywa wengi sana, lakini sasa unajua gavana Natembeya amekuwa so bold, so wameanza na yeye kusema huyu mtu amechukua mileage na anasonga. Sasa huyu lazima tuanze kumfinya kwanza before watu wengine waanze hivyo. That's why unaona Gachagua na mbona, wacha nikurudishe huko, mbona nani anapinga na hawafinyi watu wake? That is Kalonzo Musyoka, because Kalonzo tunasema ako na uoga kidogo, lakini Natembeya na Gachagua wameamka na wamesema liwalo kama ni kufa hatuogopi kufa. So ndio maana umeona wameanza kufinywa wa kwanza, hao ndio wawili wameanza kufinywa kwanza, lakini hao wengine wote watu watafinywa tu, ndio mwanzo tu. Mwaka bado ni mchanga, 2026 sijaanza, watu watashikwa, huu ni mwanzo tu. Afadhali Natembeya imefanyika mapema, azoee ama kama ataamua asarende ama aendelee kufanya hivyo, lakini watu watakujiwa tu, wengi tu. Hata akina Ngairungu Kang'ata huyu anakujiwa soon, to wait and see.
Daktari umesema kwamba ndo mwaka unaanza, ndio mambo yanaanza. Wewe unahisia ni nini ambacho kinapika jikoni?
Siasa nzuri zinaanza Disemba, Januari, ndio sasa tunaanza kujua ni nani ako upande gani. Saizi napenda vile kulikuwa na mchungaji fulani, huyu mchungaji nimemsahau, kutoka Rift Valley, alikuwa anaelezea jinsi Raila anaweza kuruka dakika ya mwisho anaweza kuambia ni wewe tu, lakini dakika ya mwisho akuruke. So saizi siasa bado, ndio maana hata mimi saizi ukiniuliza uko upande gani, siwezi nikakwambia kitu chochote, because wanasiasa wote ni chameleon. Sasa Disemba ikianza ndo inaanza, na hapo ndo tutajua hali Raila ni nani, utajua Ruto amesimama ni nani, utajua hata Gachagua pia anaweza fanya hivi, kumbe anatupembeleza tu kidogo. Unaona 2026 Januari anasema Ruto tosha, nilikuwa nimekuja bila karatasi, sasa nimeenda nimetengeneza karatasi, nimekuja na chama changu, sasa inaweza kuwa sehemu ya Ruto. Sasa hebu tusimame tena turudie. Na unajua wanasiasa yote inawezekana. Ruto anaweza amua aseme Kindiki, wewe uko tu hivyo, wewe mwenyewe una chama, alafu Mlima bado haukutambui, wewe ni muoga, hebu step down. Unajua utafanya saizi chochote. Let me tell you something, serikali ya Kenya Kwanza, mtu asikudanganya ni watu wawili, ni ya William Ruto. Sasa saizi ana uwezo wa kufanya chochote, kubadilisha na kila kitu. So siasa haijaanza. Sasa mimi nafurahi chenye Natembeya ameanza na Gachagua, na ni mwanzo tu. At least hao wamezoea, watatafuta njia za kukwepa mkono mrefu wa serikali kwa uzuri na kwa ubaya. Na Natembeya kama kweli ni kulikuwa na hizi Graft charges zote ni za ukweli, najua wamempatia uwezo wa kuenda kujitahidi, aenda akilia kila kitu. So tukiingia 2026, kusema ukweli hautaona kama hao watu wawili wanasumbuliwa, because washajua rais ana njia gani ya kuwafinya, serikali inawatafuta kwa njia gani, alafu hivyo ndo wataendelea kujipanga kabisa. So mwaka ni mchanga kabisa, siasa za 2026 saizi. Shadizo, acha nikwambie, siasa za 2026 zishaanza kutengezwa, lakini zinafanyiwa backdoor, lakini kukuja hadhara na kuweka mambo wazi 2026. So ni at least tu vizuri Gachagua na Natembeya wamekuja wazi, lakini hata hivi ni kina Kalonzo wakana Watermelon, we know they are forming something, lakini backdoors. 2026 mambo yanachipuka, alafu yanasonga.
Okay, kama ni swali lingine na una mtu ananiuliza tupo live sound Candy Talk ambao unatazama TikTok, na kama unajihisi kujiunga na kujadili na kutoa maoni yako pia nimeruhusu kwamba watu wanaweza jiunga na mimi studioni, kwamba link ipo kwa comment section on Sound Candy Talk live YouTube. Click hiyo link, alafu utakuleta studioni ili uweze kuchangia mada moja kwa moja ukiwa studioni, na kila mtu akiweza kukutazama itakuwa vyema sana. Team TikTok natamani sana pia nini mjiunga on Sound Candy Talk YouTube, na tutaweza kutembea pamoja na kuweza kusonga mbele pamoja, tukiweza kudadavua na kuchanganua ambaye yanazidi ndani ya hapa ndani, na tutakuwa vyema sana. Tunaona daktari ametuambia kwa masuala mengi kuhusiana kwamba kuna kitu kinapikwa. Nataka tuone hivi. Leo hii kumekuwa na maandamano kwa sehemu za kule kwenye Gachagua wanatoka, wakitetea kwamba hii ikufanyika vizuri, watu kumnyima ama watu Gachagua kutaka kuuawa juzi alipotoa malalamishi kwamba na madai kwamba anakisia ameponekea kifo kwa alitaka kuuawa. Wewe unahisi vipi kwamba hawa walisimamia haki ama walitoka tu kwa kutokelezea tu kwa sababu kutokelezea kupo?
Unajua hii mambo ya madhira iko na vituko, kwa sababu kwanza mbunge wao alikuwa kwa ground. Sasa ukifuatilizia vizuri ni kama upande wa mbunge ndio ulianza, kuna kitu alikuwa anaendesha fulani kwanza, then hawa nao mimi niliuchukulia katika sehemu mbili tofauti. Kwanza ni kama huu mbunge alikuwa ground na alikuwa anapanga kitu fulani, lakini tena kidogo kidogo kumbe tena ukiangalia tena kama ambaye ni wabunge wa nini wafuasi wa Gachagua ndio walikuwa washaanza, but iko katika katiba, naweza andamana wakati wa kabla maandamano ya Azimio ikianza, ilikuwa inasema penye imefikia, kwa sababu maaskari wanataka kutuua, tutupeleke maandamano kwenye manyumba. Ukilala hivi unahisi njaa, alafu unaamka na sufuria unafanya maandamano hapo nje hivyo, of which inakuashiria kwamba kila mtu ana haki ya kuandamana. Kama unaona maisha yako mtu ameenda kinyume na haki zako za kimsingi, unaweza fanya maandamano. Sasa mimi sipingi maandamano. Mimi issue yangu ni hapo wanaanza kukabana kama maandamano yalikuwa na watu wa kuunga mkono Gachagua, hakuna haja watu wa mbunge wa madhira anaitwa Mbugu waje waanze kufanya vituko na kuanza kuwapiga. Na kama kweli wafuasi wa mbunge wa madhira ndio walikuwa wameanza ama ndio walikuwa wamejipanga wakaanza mwanzo, basi wale wafuasi wa Gachagua hawana haki ya kuenda kuwapinga ati msifanye maandamano. Maandamano kila mtu Kenya iko katika katiba, kila mtu anaruhusiwa kufanya maandamano. Kwa hivyo mimi hizo vikundi vyote viwili sitetei chochote na sipingi chochote, inalingana ni nani aliingilia mwingine. Lakini kifuata taarifa zinaonyesha kwamba wale wafuasi wa mbunge wa madhira ndo walianza, ndo waliingilia hao, kwa sababu hao walikuwa wanaandamana, alafu mbunge akakuja akasema hii soko watu wafanye biashara, msifanye uchukuzi uendelee vizuri, kila shughuli iendelee vizuri, hao ikabidi waingilie. So mimi naona wafuasi wa mbunge walikosea, wangeacha wafanye, ni haki yao wafanye maandamano alafu ikuwe sawa.
Mtazamaji, natamani uniambie pia maoni yako ni yapi na niweze kuyasikia na kuweza kuyadadavua tukisonga mbele pamoja. Na wanaojiunga studioni, basi linki iko kwa comment section, ni bonyeza linki na uweze kujiunga nasi studioni ili uweze kutoa maoni yako moja kwa moja na tukisonga mbele kwa pamoja, manake tunataka tusikie na yako ni yapi ambapo yanajiri. Kuna mtazamaji mwingine anasema kwamba hajui ni nini kinaendelea ama mnaongelea nini, samahani, lakini tunaongelea masuala ambayo yametokea hivi punde tu, juzi na jana na leo, yamekuwa yakipigwa. Gachagua akitetea kwamba amekisiwa kuuawa, na baada ya kukisiwa kuuawa hivyo akasema ameepukia kifo, na anasema kwamba hiyo haitamzuia kuweza kuendelea kuandamana ama kuendeleza mfumo wao ama kuendeleza yale ambayo ameanza kuyapika. Anasema hata yaweze kufanya vipi, yeye atazidi kusimama na kujaribu kuleta uwazi hata kama watu wanavyopinga kwamba asiweze. Akasema kwamba hapo jana kwa mausemi wake wa juzi kwamba hata serikali ambao wanapanga kumuua walitumanisha kwamba aweze kuuawa na kuwekewa sumu ya kupumua ili aweze kukufa, asiweze kuwazuilia kuendeleza kufanya mikakati yao ili wamuondoe kabisa. Bado tunasikia hao, leo ametokea tena kusema mengine, ambapo jana ametokea kusema mengine ambapo akakisia kwamba watu wanaandamana kwa sababu wanahisi kwamba wanataka kumuua na yeye ni mtu wao. Bado kuna ile zana ya kwamba kuna ule mtu wetu, kuna ile zana kwamba bado inazidi kuwavuta nivute kwamba huyu wa kwetu, huyu wa kwenu, huyu wa kwetu, huyu wa kwenu. Hiyo pia zana nayo tunazidi kuiona, ambapo sio zana nzuri hata kwa kabisa, manake tulikuwa tunajua kwamba tuna hiyo nchi ambayo inakuja na mabadiliko, ama tuna nchi ambayo imebadilika, lakini tunakiendelea kuona nchi yetu bado iko kwa ile hali ambapo ilikuwa zile za huyu wa kwetu, huyu wa kwetu, kidogo na tia wasiwasi na litendo. Sijakataa kwa sababu wao Kenya wanaonyesha kwamba imara, kwamba hata kama Gachagua mlimbandua ofisini bado tunamhitaji na bado tunahitaji umuhimu wake. Tunataka tuweke pale na tuambie wazi ni yapi ambaye anajiri na ni yapi ambaye mnayapanga kama serikali na kama nchi, na pia tuone yapi ambaye anayapanga ili kuweza kuboresha nchi yetu. Maana tumemwona amezindua chama chake ambacho pia tena na yeye anasema kwamba atakuwa mwenyekiti wa hicho chama. Na mambo mengine pia tunazidi kuyaona ambayo yanatokea kadri yanapochipuka na tunazidi kuona vile yanavyokuwa. Wacha leo nijaribu kuonesha vile dhana imekuwa leo kule maeneo ambapo wanasema kwamba watu waliandamana kwa sababu walihisi kwamba ni kama kwamba wanatengwa ama ni kama kwamba wanaona mtu wao anaweza kumandulia. Wacha tuone hivi kumekuwa
the country on other stories making headlines, including business that was temporarily paralyzed in Karatina, Madera and Mwea, where pro-Rigathi Gachagua groups staged anti-government demonstrations moments after the former deputy president claimed that there was a plot to assassinate him. Attempts by Madera Member of Parliament to disrupt the protests failed as demonstrators repulsed the MP, setting bonfires along major roads into and out of Nyeri County. Seth Olale with the highlights of the day's events.
Trouble started when supporters of Mathira MP Eric Wamumbi confronted supporters of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who were planning to hold demonstrations in Karatina, Nyeri County. The confrontation angered DP Gachagua supporters, who responded by mobilizing residents of Karatina into confronting the area MP. The Mathira MP took to his heels, avoiding the crowd, which was baying for his blood.
Traders of this town are going to do their business peacefully without interruptions. If anyone wants to do mandamano, they can do it in their home. And we are not going to allow anyone to have businesses of this town closed down because of their interest.
The demonstrators then took to the streets, blocking the Karatina town access road, temporarily paralyzing business.
Tuko na husuni sana tukiona Rigiti yale anapitishwa kwa serikali, aliyoamka asubuhi na mapema akatuambia sisi tuende tukapigia William Samoei Ruto, na saa hii ndio wanamuagaisha
siwaende kwa Al-Shabaab. Waende kwa Al-Shabaab wakapiga Al-Shabaab huko. Ashike hawa. Wanakasirika juu ya alisudua kiama. Kwani chama iko na nini? Wao wako serikalini, huyu hako serikalini, wanamuuliza nini?
Sana na yeye. Sisi tulisema tunamtaka, hatukumuimpeach. Naye akarizen watu na huko. Sasa shida ni yake. Sasa ila kitu iko kwetu ni ampe amani.
Several people were reported injured, with police watching from a distance as the demonstrations unfolded. Similar protests were witnessed in Mukurweini and along the Mwea-Embu highway. The protests were said to have been sparked by the former DP's allegation of an assassination attempt by President William Ruto. Seth Olale, Citizen TV.
This is what is happening, and this is what is still going on for those who didn't get the updates, and this is what has happened due up the road. And their complaints are still raising up. The complaints are still going up and up and up and up. The complainants still raising their issues, and others being standing there to see what's not happening or what is going on or what is the issue. So I would like to hear from you, please, and I would like to hear your opinions too. They matters to Team Facebook, Team YouTube. I like to hear from you all, guys, because you are indeed amazing people and you are indeed great people to hear from you. Daktari ametuambia kwamba that there's something that is cooking and there's something that is boiling that will gonna blast up on 2026. And what do you think? Do you think that the controversy is true? Okay, I want to hear from Dr. a little bit as we are summing up where we are going up in the story of Gachagua. What do you feel, what you can speak about the story of Gachagua, whereby that do you think that the reality that the elimination or the government wants to eliminate Gachagua because he has decided to stand again?
Shadizo, siasa iko na mambo mengi. Wakati tumezika juzi mbunge Were, na kabla age ama wawe, alikuwa amepiga ripoti kwa polisi mara kadhaa. Alikuwa amesema maisha yangu yamo hatarini. Kuna wale ambao walikuwa wanachukulia kama ni mchezo, akasema hii ni mambo ya siasa. Lakini when Gachagua talk about that one, inaweza kuwa ni ukweli ama ni uongo. Sasa inaweza kuwa ni uongo kwa sababu mimi napenda kurudi nyuma, napenda vile kufuata maneno. Wakati Ruto alikuwa analalamika kwamba wakati alikuwa amekosana na Uhuru kidogo, akasema alikuwa analalamika Uhuru anataka kuniua nini. So ikawa watu wakaanza kusema anatafuta sympathy votes, of which labda ilikuwa ukweli na zilimsaidia akafanya nini, akapita kura. So huenda pia Gachagua anatumia the same way ili apate sympathy votes. Kumbuka alikuwa impeached. Sasa hivi anatafuta sympathy votes ili afanye nini, apewe nafasi ili apate uongozi. Number one, naweza kubaliana ako sawa, na tena naweza kubaliana kwamba huenda anapangiwa kuuawa. So with politics everything is wewe mwenyewe wanapenda kusema unachora, unapanga, unachora, uangalie nini kinaweza kuwa sawa, halafu tumia hivyo. Kama ni uongo fanya hivyo, kama ni wizi iiba. Kuna watu wamekuwa marais na wabunge kwa kuiba kura, na maseneta na magavana, na wengine wamekuwa viongozi kwa kuua, na wengine wamekuwa viongozi kwa kudanganya. So ni mambo ua, danganya, maiba. That is why unasikia wazungu wanasema politics is a dirty game. Ni dirty kabisa, haijai kuwa clean. Siasa haijai kuwa clean. So kama wewe ni bishop na unaingia kwa siasa, ni kuna question mark na wewe, kwa sababu politics haijai kuwa clean. So mambo ya Gachagua, mimi siku zote nitakuwa pande mbili. Ni ukweli anatafuta kumaliza, kwa sababu actually he's having a force, ana mulima unaenda, so lazima at least Ruto akuwe na wasiwasi. So huenda ni ukweli anataka kuuawa, lakini tena bado labda anatafuta sympathy votes. Anasema tu hivi ili watu wamurumie, Gachagua alifukuzwa, ametoka kwa serikali, lakini tena mbona bado mnamfuata? So hivyo ili apate sympathy votes. So mimi niko 50-50, inaweza kuwa ni ukweli ama ni uongo.
Kidogo, wacha tu turejee nyuma kidogo. Daktari, wacha nikurudishe nyuma kidogo. Hapo wali kuna wakati ambapo rais Uhuru alikuwa kiongozi, tulisikia Ruto akisema kwamba usiguze familia yangu. Unakumbuka? Baadaye vile rais Uhuru alitoka uongozini, nakumbuka wakati Uhuru alipomfika nyumbani, ukatumaanisha kwamba hata watoe ulinzi kwa mama yake nyumbani mzazi, na pia kwa watoto wake. Ruto akasema ambaye alikuwa rais Uhuru akasema kwamba na fanya kitu kingine, kama unataka mimi kunjoo uchukue mimi, lakini usiguze familia yangu. Kisha baadaye, baada ya Gachagua kuimpichiwa, hiyo siku ambayo ilifuata, ulisikia kuambia aje, kama ni mimi kuna shida na mimi, mjie mimi, lakini msiguze watoto wangu, usiguze familia yangu. Kuonyesha kwamba ni kitu ambavyo imekuwa, sio mtu mmoja amekisema, na sio mara moja tumesikia hiyo swala likinenwa. Mimi kuna kitu ambacho kinafichwa, na kama kuna kitu ambapo hakipo sawa, kuna kitu ambapo kidogo kina tashishi, lakini hatutaki kukiweka wazi, tuseme kwamba hii ndio tatizo na hii ni hivi kunaenda. Unakisia vipi? Unaona kwamba hii yote ndio bado inajihusisha kwa hiyo, ama kuna swala lingine ambalo liko tofauti kulingana na hii ile ambayo umetupea mfano wa Gachagua?
Vile umesema umetoa, mimi nitastick na sympathy votes vile nimesema mara ya kwanza. Na ukikuwa makini sana na Gachagua, amemalizana na watoto. Alikuwa anasema hebu kama wewe ni mwanaume kamili, face me, achana na watoto wangu. Gachagua amekuja ameimba, amefanywa mahojiano sijui mara 3, ameongeza mwanamke, achana sasa na mtoto. Alianza na mtoto, ameongeza mwanamke. Aseme unaona vile wakati kulikuwa na mbinu kwamba sijui nani anataka kutimuliwa Koome, akaanza kusema jamii yetu hauguze mwanamke, haupigane na mwanamke. Amekuja juzi Bishop Dorcas, wakati mwingine akashambuliwa na wahuni katika ibada moja, akasema pigana na mimi mwenyewe, achana na nini, achana na mwanamke. So hiyo ni njia ya wanasiasa kutafuta kura, na ndio maana tunakwambia hii mambo story yote ya Gachagua huenda kuna uongo mwingi ndani yake sana. Anatafuta tu ni kura, ni wakati wa kutafuta, na kila mtu ameenda kuharvest. So kila mtu anatafuta kura zake. So hata kama kuna kitu kinafichwa, unajua serikali nayo inakuwa chanja sana. Hauwezi ukakuja moja kwa moja eti wanakuja kukunyonga ama kumaliza nini hivyo. Wanatumia njia fulani hivi. So huenda Gachagua ameona mbali akaiweka wazi. Unajua the moment anaiweka wazi, kama kweli kulikuwa na hiyo plan, wanarudi nyuma kidogo, wanaogopa. Kwanza itakuja ifanyike labda, lakini watakuwa na wasiwasi. Lakini kama hakuna plan, then vile nimesema ni kura zinatafutwa. Na vile Gachagua alisema yeye ako tu na option moja, Ruto must go. Hana issue hata kama atawaambia hata simama nini, lakini Ruto must go. So anaweza tumia tu hiyo njia ya kuiba kura upande mwingine, azinana kutengeneza ulimi mtamu ili kura sikuje huku. So mimi sidhani kama that is a big deal. Ni vitu tumezoea. Vile umesema Ruto alilia wakati Uhuru alikuwa ndani, Uhuru akatoka, Ruto akaingia, Uhuru mwenyewe akalia. Sasa hivi ndio Gachagua ndio mwenyewe analia. So ni vitu vinafanyika hivyo kuanzia kitambo. Zinafanyika hivyo, so ni stories za wanasiasa tu. That's why unaona sisi kwanza wananchi ndio tunaumia huko jini tukipigana. Lakini hao watu wamezoea ni njia za kutafuta na mbinu za kutafuta kura.
Okay, mtazamaji, wacha nisikize maoni yako ni yapi na nisikize kwa wewe wanasema vipi, ama unachangia kuhusu na mada ya siku leo, unachangia ukiwa wapi na maoni yako ni yapi kuhusiana na haya tunaposonga mbele pamoja. Na kidogo tunawapeleka mapumzikoni kidogo, tukirejea tunarejea na mengi zaidi ambayo tutakuwa naweza kujadiliana hapa.
At Sound Candid Talk, we provide live UHD broadcast for church services, talk shows and podcasts, weddings, live bands, products and services launches, webinars and trainings, Zoom meetings, conferences, seminars, exhibitions, and virtual concerts.
Tonight. Basi yule mtoto akasema
Tonight, the show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. Well, a lot is taking place so fast. Therefore, everybody must work hard to stay on the cutting edge as far as making sense of our politics is concerned, and of course, remaining on top of all matters. Tonight. This is Sound Candy Talk Live. 72 people have cast their vote already, and only 42 have liked the video. Justified. So from the look of things, the majority of Kenyans think the government need to up their. Glad to report we are back on the main channel as well, and therefore we are asking everybody to join from wherever you are. Sound Candy Talk Live YouTube channel, and we are also live on X as well as extended to Facebook.
Marriage is one of life's most monumental decisions. It's not just about the wedding day or the ring. It's about committing your heart, mind, and soul to a lifelong partnership. But here's the big question. Are you really ready? Introducing Are You Marriage Ready? By Bernard Ngozi, a transformative ebook designed to guide you in building a successful and fulfilling union. This essential resource delves deep into personal growth, compatibility assessment, and the true meaning of marriage beyond the fairy tale. Learn how to reflect on your values, develop emotional resilience, and evaluate your relationship to ensure compatibility. This book opened my eyes to areas I needed to work on and helped me see my relationship in a new light. Jessica M. Available now for just $5. Are You Marriage Ready? Is accessible on all major platforms. Don't miss this opportunity to prepare yourself for one of life's most beautiful journeys. Follow the link in the description below to download your copy now. Empower your future. Embrace a fulfilling marriage now.
You are watching Sound Candy Talk Live.
Thank you and welcome back for amazing time, the second part or the second segment of our show tonight. Team TikTok, I really appreciate for those who are still joining, for those who are still sharing the live, and for those who are still also being part and parcel of this. So I want you please continue sharing the information as we are moving on swiftly and having a great discussion tonight. And with me, I'm having the Daktari who will be helping us a little bit, and we will be checking also other details too. And also tonight, I want to check, as we live on this controversy, a little bit of the politics, a little bit aside, want to check out the story of TSC. This is what has happened today inside the TSC circle.
Na tukigeukia masala ya elimu ni kwamba kamati ya bunge kuhusu elimu hii leo imeishtumu tume ya kuajiri walimu nchini TSC kwa kukiuka masharti ya kamati hiyo, hususan kudinda kutoa maelezo kuhusu taratibu za kupandishwa vyeo kwa walimu 25,000. Wanachama wa kamati hiyo wanailaumu TSC kwa kukosa kueleza kinagaubaga taratibu za kuwapandisha vyeo walimu, huku wakidai kumekuwa na upendeleo, kama anavyoeleza sasa mwanahabari wetu Melita Oletenges.
Mchakato wa kuwapandisha vyeo walimu 25,000 unaendelea kuibua mdahalo mpana, hususan kuhusu ugavi wa nafasi za vyeo kwa usawa katika maeneo tofauti humo nchini.
Teachers promoted, not promoted.
Kamati ya bunge ya elimu iliibua maswali kwa TSC kuhusu matokeo ya walimu waliosailiwa na waliofuzu kupandishwa ngazi na kutaka kujua kwa undani, lakini wanasema TSC haikuzingatia hilo.
Because as we just wanted a list, we want to test it ourselves. Not to be told. We can read and write. Not to be told.
A document should be very communicative, that I look at, I can place my hand on a name, on a number, on a person, on a school, on a sub-county like that.
Kadhalika, kamati hiyo imeitaka TSC kuelezea mbona kanuni ya kupandishwa ngazi kwa walimu wenye tajriba ya zaidi ya miaka 3 ilishushwa hadi miezi 6.
Yet, for example, Mr. Kariuki has been promoted once in 10 years. Then all of a sudden, you run short of teachers to promote. And then you start now promoting every 6 months, some individuals.
We have several teachers who are actually acting and performing duties. And therefore, because they could not reach the 3 years, that's when the commission lowered.
Aidha, wanakamati waliibua dukuduku kuhusu taarifa iliyowasilishwa na TSC.
This sub-county which promoted 4 teachers, are there, what is the number of teachers in that sub-county? Because that probability would mean there are no schools in that county or there are no teachers.
Hayo ya kijiri, makundi ya jamii chini ya muungano wa elimu bora yamepaza sauti kuhusu kupunguzwa kwa kiasi kikubwa cha bajeti katika sekta ya elimu nchini Kenya, yakionya kwamba zaidi ya wanafunzi milioni 1 wanaweza kufungiwa nje ya shule.
School meals budget reduced. Learners will only get meals for 21 days in a year. Recommendation, allocate at least 25 billion for school meals for the target of 2.8 million learners, and at least 1 meal a day at school during the 180 days.
Melita Oletenges, Runinga Citizen.
This is what is happening, and this is what is going on in our nation, whereby you find that a teacher can be promoted after working for 6 months, but another one is not promoted after working for 10 years, and yet the teacher is performing. So this is so sad, and this is so not so appealing, because they're claiming that we are not having enough teachers to promote, and yet they have remaining some teachers that are working for more than 10 years, and they have never been promoted. I want to hear from Dr. a little bit before Dr. gets on. As we're moving on, Dr. please tell us what is the controversy?
Unajua, tunavyoendelea kusonga ndio masomo yanaendelea kuharibika, na masomo yenyewe yanaendelea kuharibika kutokana na walimu wenyewe. So serikali inaendelea kuharibu maneno hivyo. Unajua, wao wanafikiria kwamba walimu wametoka skuli juzi, wako na ufahamu wa mashine na usasa, ile mbinu za kutumika sasa. Wanaona sasa hao ndio wainuliwa haraka kuliko wale ya kitambo. Sisi tulikuwa tunaambiwa tukikuwa wadogo kwamba hata usome ushinde mzazi wako, siku zote mzazi wako atakuwa na akili mingi na atakuwa na uchuzi mwingi kuliko wewe. Ndio maana tunasikia wazungu wanasema experience is the best teacher. Si ile yenye ambayo umejifunza kwenye darasani, hapana, experience ndio the best. Sasa Kenya inaendelea kuharibu, inaendelea kupoteza umaarufu katika sekta ya elimu juu ya vitu kama hivi. Sasa mimi napinga kabisa, waje watangulie wale ambao wako na experience, wawainue, wapatie nafasi ya kipekee kwa sababu wamehangaika, wamekuwa na experience ya kutosha kuliko hao wenye wametoka shule saizi, hata kama wamesoma na teknolojia. So unajua serikali ya saizi inaamini teknolojia kuliko experience. So wanatumia hiyo mbinu, lakini hivyo ndo elimu unaona endelea kuharibika. Na sasa hivi hata mambo ya sijui 6633 ndio hiyo inasumbua kwa sababu ya mambo kama haya. Walikuja wakiwa na haraka na kufanya vitu ambavyo hata havifai. So mimi hiyo kauli napinga. Hawangefanya hivyo wanse na waliotangulia kwa sababu uchuzi wao na tajriba yao iko juu kuliko ya kisasa. Hivyo ndo ninavyosema.
Daktari, sisi tunashukuru kwa kuwa na sisi, na unless kama unalala kutuambia la ziada kabla ubanduki.
Asante. Wazungu wasema kukua ambushed. Sikuwa nimejipanga, ndio maana niko gizani. Huko kwetu kwa Kasongo stima zimefanya hiyo kitu. Sasa nitajipanga, tutakuwa tu pamoja. Asante sana kwa wale ambao wanasikiliza. Tafadhali tunapozungumza kila siku, tafadhali hakikisha unafuata channel zetu kwenye TikTok, Facebook na YouTube, Sound Candy Talk Live, Sound Candy Talk. Alafu itakuwa vizuri. Mimi naitwa mhariri mkuu. Mhariri ni editor. Asante sana kwa wale wote ambao wanajiunga. Let's keep on tap. Nilikojua siku hizi niko huko TikTok. Nasema keep on tapping the screen. Laptop. Tap ni finya hiyo ya Kaptengele ya Ruto ya kwenda Kaptengele kufinya computer pata coins. Sasa ni finya tap. So asante, tutajipanga, tutakuwa hapa vizuri, alafu itakuwa poa. Asante sana kwa kunialika na kunipatia nafasi ya kipekee.
Asante sana daktari. Wale ambao wamekuwa kijiunga na sisi tunazidi kuwapongeza na tunazidi kusonga mbele na wazidi kupiga hatua moja bara nyingine na kuweka mambo sawa. Nazidi kuwakumbusha kwamba hii ni Sound Candy Talk. Moja, bonyeza kidude cha subscribe, basi bonyeza kidude na tuweze kusonga sana pamoja na kudadavua na kuchanganua masuala zaidi ambayo yanajiri katika nchi yetu na yanajiri katika ufasi na ufasa wa nchi yetu. Tukiachana masuala hayo, tunaangalia leo hii kumekuwa na maandamano ndani ya sehemu ambazo zinaitwa sehemu za Kasarani. Ni kwa sababu yao kuwa na utovu wa nidhamu ama kukuwa na ulegevu wa usalama, na wakazi wa Kasarani wamekisia kwamba watoto wao hutoka nyumbani asubuhi kuelekea shuleni wakiona watu wakiwa na wao. Hili ni swala ambalo limewakera wazazi ambao wametoka kwa hamaki na kwa huzuni ili kwenda kuandamana ili kutetea maslahi ya wana wao.
Meanwhile, residents of Kasarani in Nairobi took to the streets today to protest what they say is a surge in insecurity in the area. The residents blocked roads in protest, saying there is a rise in violent attacks that have claimed lives and shattered families. The community, particularly in areas like Hunters, is calling on the government and police to take urgent action before the situation worsens. Residents say despite repeatedly asking for help, their cries have gone unanswered and many fear stepping out after dark. They are now demanding that authorities intervene, set up a fully operational police station and increase patrols to restore security in the area.
Mabwana zetu wakitoka asubuhi wakienda kazini, wakifika hapa wanauawa. Tumeitisha msaada muda mrefu sana, lakini hatuoni mafanikio. Kila wakati watoto wetu wakienda shuleni wanaona watu wakiuawa hapa. Watoto wetu jamani, si watadhoofika kiakili, hata wataconcentrate na masomo. Hatutakubali. Sisi kama wazazi tumechoka.
Kenya tunataka hapa au makarau hapa Kasarani na Hunters organize venye wataweka station hapa na iwe ina operate, watu wetu wasiuawe. Tuko na watoto mayatima, tuko na vijana waliuawa hapa.
Hii ndio jiri Kasarani na wengine kuacha wakiwa na majeraha na makovu ndani ya roho yao kupoteza wapendwa wao, na hii ni swala ambalo linasikitisha sana. Basi wacha serikali na nchi yetu tuweze kuweka kipaumbele kuhakikisha usalama na kuhakikisha kwamba kila mmoja anapata haki na mambo yanakuwa sawa, ili tusijipate kwa tatizo kama haya ambayo yamekuwa yakiendelea na yakijiri kila kukicha. Tukiachana hayo, wacha tuangalia mengine ambayo yamejiri leo na kisha tutaangalia mjadala leo. Tumekuwa naye Mtanga nane ma-DVD akiwa anazungumza kidogo, tutaona mjadala wake na tujue ni yapi ambaye ameyaongea, ambapo tutakuwa tunaweza kuyasikiza kindani zaidi.
Meanwhile, residents of Kasarani in Nairobi took to the streets today to protest what they say is a surge in insecurity in the area. The residents blocked roads in protest, saying there is a rise in violent attacks that have claimed lives and shattered families. The community, particularly in areas like Hunters, is calling on the government and police to take urgent action before the situation worsens. Residents say despite repeatedly asking for help, their cries have gone unanswered and many fear stepping out after dark. They are now demanding that authorities intervene, set up a fully operational police station and increase patrols to restore security in the area.
That's what had gone to Kasarani. As we leave that, we will be joining up with the conversation between Waziri, and we'll be checking out this. So what I want to ask you, please subscribe and let's join together as we are moving on swiftly and you're moving on to another level.
Tunaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunaketi kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako. Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye
within the East African region for a bit. Waziri, do you take responsibility for the continued incarceration of Dr. Kizza Besigye in a Ugandan jail?
No, I do not. I don't take responsibility, and Kenya cannot take responsibility, because that is a process that is going on in Uganda under the authority of the government of Uganda. So we cannot take responsibility for that.
Please explain the circumstances under which he got to that jail, because he was here.
I think it's best left as it is now, because he came here, as you know, and there were issues, and he had to go.
What issues?
I think the manner in which he had come to Kenya were not quite clear.
What do you mean by that?
And at that time, him being here, and then, of course, certain issues beginning to evolve. And I think, as I say, I would rather leave it at that, because he's now in the custody of his nation and his authorities.
What do you mean by the manner in which he came into the country was not proper? I mean, I'm trying to establish to what extent, the Kenyan government was involved in him being handed over to the Ugandan authorities.
Normally, the reality is that we always look at what is a national interest. And I think we need to appreciate that we have to partner with our East African states. And sometimes we have to manage those relations very carefully for the broader national interest. Now, it is important that as we do whatever we do, even as individuals, we must be cognizant that there's a nation, and nations have relationships. And these are the issues that are not unique to what is happening in the East African community or East African region. We now must look at even the geopolitics and the debate around immigration and movement of people. This is a debate that is broader, and it's taking very different dimensions globally.
Okay, I want us to stick to the Kizza Besigye issue. What are the specific circumstances around that? Was it right to just admit that Kenya handed over Dr. Kizza Besigye to the Ugandan authorities?
Kenya cooperated with the Ugandan authorities. If there are issues, it's a friendly nation. If there are issues that they feel require attention, because he was not seeking asylum. He had not come to say that he is seeking asylum. Had he said that, maybe the treatment would have been different.
On what intelligence was that?
I will not be at liberty to disclose that.
So you won't disclose
No.
the reasons why?
No.
So, Waziri, your statement is talking about managing relationship between countries. Some might interpret that to mean that it is that overrides the rights and freedoms of movement, of speech, of the individuals of the East African community. And that in that way, then, would be the same justification for the Kenyans who were deported from Tanzania? Are you saying the rights of leaders and the relationship
not of leaders, not leaders,
supersedes those of individuals and their rights to free movement?
No, let's put it this way. Please, let's look at it in a proper context. Let's not simplify some of these things to make it look like, or rather trivialize some of these issues. Uganda is Kenya's largest trading partner. A lot of lives, a lot of jobs are dependent on that relationship. The same goes with Tanzania. So we have to be cognizant of the national interests. What would happen to Kenya's economy if there was no more trade between Kenya and Uganda?
Would Kizza Besigye's stay in the country have jeopardized the trade relations? It's a fair question, following up from what you've just said. Do you think Dr. Kizza Besigye's stay in the country, is that what you're saying, jeopardized the trade relations between Kenya and Uganda? In the same light, Waziri, do you think that Hanifa Adan, Hussein Khalid, former Chief Justice, Martha Karua, and Boniface Mwangi, and their presence in Tanzania jeopardizes trade between Kenya and Tanzania?
I think there are some issues that we have to be careful about. We talked about this national interest, and I'm repeating. I have, as Minister for Foreign Affairs, as much as I have to take care of Kenyans in an individual capacity, I equally have that all-important responsibility to make sure that the national interests of Kenya are not jeopardized. And this is absolutely essential for the well-being of Kenya.
So where's the balance between the steps that you are taking? Because, Waziri, throughout our conversation, you speak about, the broader relationships. But some would say, Waziri, what steps are you taking to protect the rights and welfare of Kenyans in the country, in the region, their rights and their welfare, whom you have sworn to protect?
We take diplomatic measures. We communicate diplomatically. Now, Yvonne, do you want these incidents to escalate tension between our two countries, or should we handle them diplomatically? If you ask me, we should not escalate the situation. We should handle it diplomatically. And that is what I intend to do. But it would be tactless if I went head on and said, I want a confrontation with our neighbors on this issue.
I'm not asking for a confrontation.
So,
perhaps to just ask.
So I've told you that.
To what extent you're able to protect the rights of Kenyans?
To the extent that is legally possible. That is how we go about it.
Let's stay within, as I said, the wider East African region. Waziri, a parallel government was formed in Nairobi in February, or was it March this year, by the RSF. Is Kenya's government officially recognizing RSF as the legitimate government of Sudan?
First of all, I want to make it very clear that you're wrong. No government was formed in Kenya. no government in exile was formed in Kenya.
What was RSF doing here then, was it?
They were having their peace conversation.
With who?
Amongst themselves. Okay. Amongst themselves.
There's a question here because there's many sides to the crisis in Sudan.
Correct.
So far, Waziri, we've only seen one side.
Are you sure Burhan was not here?
Making extensive trips. Hang on one second. Hang on one second. With the RSF, and they've been here in the country not once, not twice, and not at a private installation, but they've been at the KICC. So what you're saying is RSF will be here. What about the others? Are they here meeting independently of the others?
Shall I tell you that personally, the Minister of SAF, Foreign Affairs, Yusuf of Sudan, he came, he saw me, and we went to State House and he met the President of the Republic of Kenya. He's from the other side, this year.
So why do you think the government of Sudan is quite unhappy then with the presence of RSF here?
You know, it's completely misplaced in my view. We are very clear that the solution in Sudan is not going to be a military solution. It has to be dialogue. They have been fighting for the last 3 years, going into 3 years. There are different initiatives that are being put forward by different people. If you follow carefully, there's a process that they call the Jeddah process. It is being pushed by the Saudis and other countries. Mm-hmm. I was in London the other day for another meeting on Sudan, and I was equally at another one in Paris. So, is it wrong if there's a convergence and a conversation on Sudan in Kenya?
Waziri?
No,
Waziri,
you have to listen to me.
Waziri, one moment. Yes. It wasn't a convergence. It was the RSF here. This was the statement they made right here in the capital of Nairobi. They said, on this anniversary, we proudly declare the establishment of the government of peace and unity, a broad civilian coalition that reflects the true face of Sudan. They say we're not building a parallel state, but we are building the only realistic future for Sudan. Our government, they continue to say, will provide essential services like education, healthcare, and justice. Waziri, that is not a declaration of a parallel government?
No, it was not. If you read the full text of that document, there was no declaration of a government per se. Let me make it very clear. Yes, there was no declaration of a government.
We proudly declare the establishment of the government of peace and unity. Is that not a declaration of government?
Is that a government of Sudan?
No. So what would you call it? If it's not a government of Sudan, then what would you call it?
It is an intention. It is an intention. They will declare peace and they'll pursue peace and security. They did their pronouncement in Sudan.
But they did it here first.
No. We did not allow, and we will not allow Kenya to be used for the formation of a government for another country.
All right, but yet there was a protest from the government of General Burhan from Khartoum.
We cannot stop the protest. He is General Burhan. He can raise his concerns. Equally, he's still raising concerns about other countries in other places.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Kenya.
But Kenya is not involved in any negative way with Sudan. Remember, we don't even have a common border. We don't have a common boundary. What we are looking for is, as members of the African Union, as members of IGAD, we wish them well and we want them to engage in dialogue.
Okay.
That is how we are going to get peace.
And this is an IGAD-led process of which Kenya is a part. Does it not worry you from a diplomatic standpoint in terms of even the perception, right? That Kenya seems to have the perception among one side of the warring factions of non-alignment or of specific alignment in one direction. Should Kenya then continue to be party to that? Because it's one thing to say the other side, but you can't ignore the Sudan's government's protests, can you?
Kenya has had a history of mediation. And it will go back, I can take you back to the very early days of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. The whole issue of Angola and how they got their independence, the final document was actually in Nakuru, where President Jomo Kenyatta brought the different political factions together. We assisted in South Sudan in bringing in the mediation. They signed the agreement here. And we've kept our tabs on it, the Tumaini process and so forth, trying to help them through mediation. The same has been happening with Somalia. And the same is with Sudan. At no time are we carrying any arms to fight. In fact, one of the tragic things is that Kenyans have been involved in the humanitarian crisis in South Sudan. When the war broke out, a lot of Sudanese were evacuated, and also international members of the international workforce in that place. They were brought to Kenya. So we have played a very positive role. And indeed, some lives of Kenyans have been lost working with UN agencies in Sudan. So we have.
So you still believe that Kenya, particularly in the Sudan issue, holds a neutral arbiter position, despite the fact that one side is raising some very serious objections to the role that Kenya plays?
But that can only be resolved if they talk. We cannot scapegoat. The solution to Sudan remains one. They must sit and dialogue. Blaming Kenya is not going to solve the Sudanese challenge. As they continue blaming Kenya, more people are dying. It would be more important for them to take personal responsibility, own up to the need to discuss, and have a conversation with the Sudanese people. We have been telling them, don't just make it a dialogue of military men. Involve civil society, involve the civilians of Sudan. After all, they are the majority. The armed people are fewer in number, but you are engaging in a process and you're ignoring the bulk of your people.
So Waziri, now that we're going on the record and getting that straight and taking personal responsibility, do you want to go on record here, Waziri, as saying that you recognize the government of General Burhan as a legitimate government of Sudan?
If you follow carefully, Sudan has been suspended from the African Union because the people in authority are not there through a democratic process.
So you don't recognize the government of General Burhan?
So what I'm trying to tell you is that Sudan has got a lot of work to do. I'm asking Kenya's standpoint. What I'm trying to tell you is that right now, the legitimacy of the authorities in Sudan is under audit by the African Union. We are members of the African Union.
So you don't recognize.
So what we want is for them to come to terms and talk so that we can have peace.
All right. You've talked about Kenya's history with dealing with different warring parties and bringing many countries in the region and beyond. But for years, we have dealt with these differing warring parties, but without raising the suspicions that, RSF's presence in the country does. And part of that is because of the allegations going around. So we're very pleased to have you here with us to perhaps set the record straight. Waziri, could you confirm to us whether the government of Kenya does any business deals with RSF?
There are no business deals. There are no business deals. Are you in a position to give me evidence?
I'm asking the question.
No, there's none. I'm in government. There's none.
So you don't, as a government, facilitate RSF to export gold to the United Arab Emirates through Nairobi?
No. How can the government be involved in smuggling? If there was such a thing, wouldn't it appear in the records of our exports if we were exporting that gold?
Facilitating?
No, we don't.
You are not facilitating them.
Yeah.
But recently, an aircraft was bombed. We know about that in Nyala. A Kenyan pilot was killed. The aircraft was said to be ferrying weapons for the RSF.
You've just answered yourself. You've said it was said.
Yes.
Do you have evidence?
That's why I'm going to the question.
Do you have evidence?
As government, could you clarify that? Which is why you're here, Waziri.
There's no evidence.
To enable us. So first of all, let's talk about the aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
Was a Kenyan pilot killed?
Yes, it was in the media.
No, not what's in the media. Now I'm asking you as government. So was a Kenyan pilot killed in that aircraft?
Died, yes.
Okay. Who did the aircraft belong to?
Oh, no. That is a different matter. That is a subject of proper investigation.
Okay.
Yeah? Let's not go into speculation. Please.
So
in all fairness.
Okay. So so this is me asking so that they can, because Waziri, you're here to enable us put the rumors to rest.
Yes.
So the aircraft.
We can't go into falsehoods and innuendo here.
I'm asking the question so that you can help dispel the falsehoods and the innuendo. So the aircraft did not belong to the RSF and was not said to be ferrying weapons?
Yes. As far as we are concerned, no.
It wasn't?
Yes.
But you just said investigations are being done and you're not clear.
Yes. As far as we are concerned, no.
Okay.
Yes.
And if the investigations that you say prove otherwise?
We are not in the business of smuggling arms. Neither are we in the business of smuggling gold. By the way, Kenya has a history here. I was in Treasury when the whole Golden Bag saga came in, and it was all about fictitious claims and exports around gold. We are not in the business of entering into that kind of trade.
So the reverse is also true. The UAE is known to support RSF, so there is no chance, or is there, that there is maybe some type of government-to-government arrangement where the Kenyan government is helping the UAE pursue its agenda in Sudan?
No, that is wrong. And I will not, I'm not holding brief for the UAE. I am the Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Kenya, and I do not speak for the UAE. They will speak for themselves.
While we stay on the matter of Sudan and what is going on there, the Human Rights Commission has condemned what they call the Kenya RSF ties, and they say that is undermining the efforts in the Sudan peace process. And they have been quite stinging, saying that when the RSF gathered here in February to form a parallel government, you say it wasn't, that it violated Kenya's commitment to justice and accountability, not just in Sudan, but in the Horn of Africa region, and that at that time, the RSF were themselves conducting some heinous acts back in their country with over 400 people who were killed. They are saying that they're issuing a statement, which was a strong one, condemning any attempt by the warring parties to unilaterally declare a government here. And they said this is, interfering with the international law. This was signed, Waziri, by the Africans for the Horn of Africa Initiative, Atrocities Watch Africa, Betty Murungi, Civic Freedoms, Grace Agenda, the Human Rights Commission, and so many other CEOs, including the Pan-African Lawyers Union, castigating the work. So this is coming from civil society. This is coming from the government in Sudan, which you say, because it's not declared by the AU, Kenya is a part of the AU, and you are saying the legitimacy of that government is in question. Correct?
Absolutely.
All right. So what does Kenya say then? I mean, when you want to be an arbiter in a peace process, right? You've got civil society actors who are speaking against it. You've got the Sudan government or General Burhan, as it were, saying Kenya is not a neutral arbiter. Is this not a moment, perhaps, Waziri, for some reflection to say, could there be a way in terms of creating a perception? And perception, as you know, is important, perhaps even more so in the world of diplomacy, to the extent that Kenya can no longer play the...
So that I can appreciate where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Do you yourself support Burhan?
I am not the government of Kenya.
No.
So I have no views on that. The reason I'm asking you...
Because your line of questioning is as if you've taken a position.
I am trying to understand your line of thought and understanding. And this is because you are the cabinet secretary in charge of foreign affairs
and I have told
are a civil servant. And so your statements and that of government have a much bigger play internationally. Not mine, I'm an ordinary citizen.
And that is why I've told you precisely, no government was formed here. Okay?
I'm asking what
and then two, I have said Kenya's position, and I'm pronouncing Kenya's position, a military solution will not work in Sudan. The conflicting parties have to get to a negotiating table. That is the position.
My question was about the perception that it creates and to what extent that concerns you, if at all, in terms of then the role that Kenya can continue to play in terms of building peace in Sudan, which, as you say, is important. Does the perception that Kenya is taking one side over the other, does that concern you at all? That was my question.
Do you know there's a perception that other countries are also taking sides?
But this is Kenya, and I'm speaking to the Kenyan minister.
So I want to put it in context. I don't want to name other countries that have taken different positions on different issues. We have to help the Sudanese people build trust in a dialogue process.
But some of them, one side of that doesn't believe
but people are
in
dying.
The process.
Yvonne, we are talking here in this prestigious studio. People are dying. It's about there's need for dialogue.
Is Kenya the one that can lead that dialogue, considering everything that's been said?
Kenya can contribute in its small way to get them to dialogue.
All
right. If for instance...
Do you think the perception is a stumbling block to that dialogue process?
If, for instance, we were able to bring and persuade RSF or any other of the different parties, because there are many conflicts and there are many groups, by the way. It's not just the two. The two are prominent because they're the ones with the military might. But there are so many other groups. If we can contribute in getting these people to stop fighting and get to a negotiating table, I think that would be a valuable contribution. Ultimately...
Do you think you still can? With everything that's been said about Kenya?
You don't run away from a process. You help people get together. Shall I go to another angle, just to give you an example? We were here, people were saying there's a problem. What have you done with DRC? People forgot that the Luanda process was about two nations conversing. The Nairobi process was about encouraging inter-Congolese dialogue, led by Uhuru on one side and Lorenzo in Angola. Okay? We were accused and vilified that why is this government encouraging the talk to a different group? Those were inter-Congolese dialogue. Now, tell me what has happened in Qatar. The same people that they were saying we should not have talked to or we should not encourage them to talk, they are now telling them, we are happy that you're talking in Qatar. They've gone and signed agreements in other countries. Now, for as long as it's bringing peace, we are happy with it. But doesn't it tell you something? That somebody must talk to the different conflicting parties. That's all.
Okay, we have a vast number of issues to talk about with respect to foreign diplomacy.
Good. Go ahead.
So we've discussed what's happening in the region. I want us to now focus on something that sparked controversy in the US Senate. Perhaps we can listen to Senator Risch, who is the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in the United States.
Many African nations maintain troubling ties with China, including key national security partners. Just last month, President Ruto declared that Kenya, a major non-NATO ally, and China are co-architects of a new world order. It's time to reassess our relationship with Kenya and others who forge tight bonds with China. And it isn't just an embracement of China, but also the, quote, new world order, end quote.
The US is unhappy, Waziri.
No.
The US Senate is unhappy.
Maybe that's better. Because you said the US is unhappy, and I've told you no. Okay? First of all, let's put it in context. And I repeat, we are a sovereign state. It's absolutely important. There's a famous saying that the Englishman's heart is his castle. So no matter our size, no matter the state of our nation, there's one thing we must always safeguard: the sovereignty of our state and our nation. The right to choose our friends and how to work with our friends. That is a principle that we must always uphold. Even as we speak, the superpowers are talking. If you go into the trade numbers, who is the biggest trading partner today of those two big superpowers? The biggest trade is literally between them. And they've just met in Europe to reconcile their differences on matters of trade. All right? So when Kenya engages or talks, it should not be taken out of context. And by the way, I have written a letter formally to the senator explaining Kenya's position and getting him to appreciate the context in which the statements he's alluding to were made. First of all, President Ruto is the chairman or the African Union champion on matters climate change.
Yeah.
President Ruto is the champion on matters of reform of the African Union. President Ruto was the co-host for the World Bank here in Nairobi to raise funds for the IDA 21 replenishment, speaking on behalf of the 75 IDA recipient countries on the African continent and beyond the African continent. And in that meeting, they talked of the need to look at the international financial architecture so that it can be more accommodative to the needs of the 75 IDA countries. That is a global issue. Aspects about climate change, the impact, and whether Africa is getting the right return in terms of carbon credits and so forth, is a global context. And these issues that need to be canvassed, and who are members of the World Bank? Everybody is a member of the World Bank. And in fact, out of tradition, you will find that the head of the IMF is normally nominated from the European countries. And the United States normally would be the one identifying who would be the president of the World Bank. So this is a unique moment. Okay, so the context in which it was made was not right. Okay, so I've written to explain, and I've invited him, if he pleases, to come to Kenya and have a more detailed conversation.
All right. So President William Ruto, and I'm hoping we will have that soundbite from him speaking in Beijing, China, I believe it was at Peking University. He said, and I quote, Ruto said that, you know, Kenya and China are not merely trade partners, we are co-actors in the new, let's listen to him rather than having my words.
Kenya and China are not merely trade partners. We are co-architects of a new world order, one that is fair, inclusive, and sustainable. The first African state visit to China this year mirrors my 2024 visit to the United States, the first African state visit there in 15 years. Perhaps, symbolically, Kenya can serve as a bridge between East and West, North and South, in an era of deepening geopolitical tensions.
I want to break that statement up into two parts so we can understand it.
Yes.
In the beginning, the president says that we're not merely trade partners, but we are co-actors in the New World Order, which will be fair, inclusive, and sustainable. To which the chair of the UN Senate Foreign Relations talks about troubling ties with China, particularly when the president calls himself a co-actor or says Kenya is a co-actor with China. What did he mean by that?
I think I explained it. I explained it when I said, I give you the example of the reviewing the new financial architecture. That's a particular issue. There are issues that need to be looked at in the context of trade. Okay, fairness in trade. And by the way, as we were talking, it's one of the issues we even had a conversation with China, that the balance of trade is heavily skewed in favor of China. All right? And we want Kenya's trade to grow. We want that imbalance corrected. These are issues we talked about in the trip with the president in China. So what President Ruto was talking about here is collective ownership. America is a big power. So is China.
Okay. Before we now go to the three of them together, because that's the second part of his statement, correct me if I'm wrong, Kenya's foreign policy has always been one of non-alignment, correct? But then some would say that statement by the president essentially picks a side when you say we are co-actors in a new world order, particularly in the era of global geopolitical and economic tensions that we're in, that might have signaled, I don't know, might have signaled a shift to the US of our move away from non-alignment to one that says we are working with China, we are on the same side, we are co-actors.
No, I think it's being misinterpreted, and I want to repeat. The two nations are very important to us, and we will continue to engage constructively with both of them. I've just come back from the United States, and I had a very constructive engagement with the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. And we reaffirmed and revisited very critical parts that we can take together as nations working together.
So this is not a shift in Kenya's policy?
It is not a shift in Kenya's policy to the detriment of Kenya or to anybody. And we are not here as Kenya to try and play one country against another.
Yet perhaps they feel that way because the senator continued to say they're reassessing the relationship with Kenya and others, particularly because of the non-major non-major state, non-NATO ally. Explain that.
We are a non-major NATO ally. That is a fact. It was gazetted. It has not changed. But let me give you an example.
But they want to reassess that relationship. Is that something
that was a statement. He said maybe there's time to reassess. He didn't say we are reassessing.
Does that concern you? That they're thinking of?
And he didn't say that the government is. No, it does not concern us, because he was making a speech. and he was speaking to the Senate, and we have responded in a way that is diplomatic. So I've communicated to him. But let's just put it in context. President Trump has just made a very decisive tour in the Middle East. If you check, which countries did he visit? And which ones did he visit? All right? Who has been perceived as the traditional ally? And how has it been looked at in this visit? So all I'm trying to say is that global politics is dynamic. And decisions are made for certain reasons at certain times. But as far as Kenya is concerned, I'm trying to help the Kenyans who are watching and listening to us and put it in context that we look at our national interest and we work to sustain mutually beneficial partnerships with all countries.
Is that what came up in your meeting with the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio?
I know you want me to tell you what we discussed, but I'll put it very clearly that we covered a number of things. One, we got affirmation from the Secretary of State that they will continue to work with us on our role in Haiti under the MSS mission. That was very critical and important to us, and indeed for the people of Haiti as well. We thought that was a very, very important statement. Two, we talked of how to grow our economies. And after meeting Marco Rubio, I also met the trade representative, Jamison, Greer. And we had a very positive conversation, bearing in mind that Kenya had done some work negotiating a free trade agreement in the first Trump leadership. Then it changed to STIP.
STIP, yes.
And then now they're in place.
Yeah.
And we have set up mechanisms. We had a very positive conversation, and we are putting a team together so that we can advance that conversation to mutually benefit both of us. Because the reality is that the prospects of AGOA do not look very good. So we have to think and figure out how to work for the Kenyan people, for our Kenyan economy. And the United States is equally an important trading partner.
What commitments did you get regarding our mission in Haiti?
What is important is that they will support you logistically, and in terms of equipment. The United States has been very pivotal. And we wanted to get assurance that that support will not wane. And that was given. Two, it is also important that within the context of the United Nations, clarity, because the term of the MSS is also going to come to closure. Lives could be endangered. So it is important also within the context of the United Nations. The United States is a member of the P5. So their voice is equally important in making sure that this international mission can yield success and hope for the people of Haiti.
All right, so logistics and equipment, because now this is funded under the UN, right?
Yes, there's a trust fund which countries contribute to the UN. So it's important that all those issues are tied up as we go so that you don't leave a vacuum.
What would success look like in Haiti, Waziri?
Success would be when we can see peace and we can see them beginning to put their institutions together and work towards a free and fair election that will give them a democratic leadership. That is what would be success. It would be important to have children go to school. A situation where the gangs are, wiped out so that no more criminal activities are taking place. And by the way, the United States also designated the gangs in Haiti as terrorist organizations, which again is a very fundamental step, because then they can come heavier with sanctions and other punitive measures to help the flow of ammunition to Haiti.
Okay. We've gone around the continent and perhaps around the world, and we're back now to Kenya.
Right.
I have just some moments for what's happening in the country at the moment. Currently, the former deputy president of the Republic of Kenya is claiming that the government is out to assassinate him and that there is a plot to kill him. There was over 100 police officers who were deployed, and he says he has intelligence that the plan was to assassinate him or disable him via use of certain chemicals. As Prime Cabinet Secretary of the government, what's your response to these claims, allegations?
Stranger than fiction. That's how I summarize that. Nobody would want to do that kind of thing. We are government. We have to protect people. And it is not the business of government to assassinate people. So I find it very unfortunate and sensational. And I think we should put a lot of proportion to our thoughts and our utterances, particularly for those who are in leadership positions. This is not a time to incite people. And there should never be a time to incite people. In our democratic free space, what we need to figure out is what would they do alternatively in terms of policy, in terms of programs, to justify my vote and your vote.
Is it time to be talking about votes yet, Waziri? Because there's some in the country who feel...
Absolutely. Now you've just come to exactly the point. It's 2.5 years to the election. So what should we be talking about? I think there's a serious obsession with politics in this country, in terms of immediately after one election, people are already again in an election mode.
Waziri, some would say that of President William Ruto, that he's also been out in a fashion similar to campaign mode. He has talked about an election. He has said what his intentions are, and not just him, but his lieutenants around him and those of leaders, including Majority Leader in the National Assembly, that the political rhetoric in the country is at an all-time high.
Okay, go ahead.
Allow me to finish. And that both sides are participating in either it's one side that is saying 1 term, another one is saying 2 term, we're going to be able to finish this, and is it Kumi Bila break? We're hearing all of these things, and that political rhetoric, Waziri, is coming from both sides, if we're being honest. So what would you say to that? It's not your time for politicking, but yet both sides are engaging in it.
To me, I think we need to work we need to deliver. And true, to some extent, we can all change the tone of our conversation. And we should. We can talk about politics, we can talk about development, but not in the kind of manner that we are seeing.
Does that start with your side? And there's a reason I'm asking you, because I'm seated here with you, and you're on one side of the political divide, which is also pushing a political campaign.
On this one, there are errors on both sides. Okay, the way we communicate, there are errors on both sides. So that I'll give you. Okay, we could do better. And I think we should. Because if you are to, from where I sit, there's a lot of work to be done. And we should focus there. And sometimes in these matters, you lose public office and you move on. But if you constantly exhibit bitterness, it sometimes clouds your sense of judgment.
Who do you think is bitter?
Oh, I think everybody knows that the former deputy president is very bitter.
Why?
Because he was impeached. Yeah, he is. Now it's up to him to calm his nerves and then engage constructively. But I don't think you're being constructive if you start threatening Kenyans about a bloodbath in 2027. No. I don't think you're doing justice to yourself if you continue compartmentalizing Kenyans.
Okay, let's take questions from our viewers who are watching us tonight. We want to start with this one, if we can take it up on the screen. Yes, so that we can see that. I guess I would need to turn this way. Yes. So this is from Gavayama Youth, I suppose that's what it means. Ask Waziri about the tea stranded in both Kenya and Sudan, and what are the measures in place?
We continue to trade. We hope that ultimately there'll be peace in Sudan so that the normal trading process can continue.
What's the state of the trade between the two countries after Sudan halted imports from Kenya? Can you clarify?
It's limited, but it's not necessarily because of the halting of imports. Please remember, the statistics show that the tea export was declining because of the insecurity. The tea has been getting to Sudan through Port Sudan, which was bombed only a few days ago. So even the operations that had moved from Khartoum to Port Sudan, a lot of them have wound up because even Port Sudan is not safe. So the decline here in the exports is not about Kenya's personal position. It's a consequence of the conflict in Sudan.
All right.
And we are looking for other markets as well. We are worried that also if the conflict between India and Pakistan were to escalate, it could also have implications. Because Pakistan is also one of the largest buyers of our tea. Yeah. So conflict is something that we must not pray for.
So what are the solutions? What are the markets are you looking at? If Sudan and possibly what's happening in India and Pakistan?
Our exports still continue to grow. We are looking at, for instance, Egypt is still big. We have had an issue with Iran. We are working on it. The Minister for Agriculture is seized with this matter so that we can step up our exports there. And we are talking to other countries, both in Europe, in Africa, to start taking and consuming more of our tea.
We can't let you go, Waziri, without speaking about the issue of labor, and particularly the export of Kenyan labor in the country. There's been quite a bit of controversy and some stories. There we go. Kiplating says the role of government is to ensure enabling business environment and creation of job opportunities for its citizens. Why is the government encouraging the export of our labor? Is this not modern day slavery?
No, it's not. Labor is mobile. There's mobility of labor globally. And if there are opportunities for Kenyans in other countries, we should not discourage them. Kenya is now reaping huge remittances from Kenyans working abroad. The diaspora remittances have now hit almost 750 billion. They are rapidly getting closer to 1 trillion annually. That is a lot of money being injected into the Kenyan economy. So we should not look at it as a simplistic thing. Yes, the bulk of the jobs must be created in Kenya. We must encourage investment, create jobs here too. But where there are opportunities for Kenyans on the other side, we should also allow them to go and facilitate them to go. And all we can say is that we try and make that labor mobility process as comfortable as possible by signing bilateral labor agreements and so forth.
But yet there are questions around how we're doing that. One, it's even in the type of jobs, that these are low-cadre jobs rather than those that are more productive. So Kenyans are asking, why are we sending our fellow Kenyans to be drivers, to be servants? And, you know, what sort of the cadre of the jobs that we are sending out there, but also, Waziri, the treatment of our various workers, particularly in a country like Saudi Arabia. Amnesty International recently released a report calling, they called it Locked In and Left Out, where they chronicled the experiences of over 70 women in that country. And then there was a response, by the way, by the minister, the ambassador, Kenya's ambassador in Saudi Arabia. And he dismissed that report, terming it as exaggerations. And that has got Amnesty International unhappy, saying that the Kenya government is not doing enough to protect the rights of workers in Saudi Arabia.
What did they say about other countries? Because it's not only Kenyan workers who are in that country.
Waziri, you are the cabinet secretary.
Yeah, no.
Wait, hang on. You are the Kenyan cabinet secretary.
Yes.
One moment. You are the Kenyan cabinet secretary in charge of foreign affairs.
True.
Swearing an oath to protect the lives, the rights of Kenyan workers, right? This report speaks about Kenyan women, particularly, over 70 of them. So this is not about other countries. The question is, what more can Kenya do to continue to protect the workers who go to Saudi Arabia month in, month out? Waziri, you cannot say this is about other countries.
So can I now respond to your question?
Go ahead.
All right. You see, sometimes it's a question of how you approach it, the context in which you came through it. I'm here to defend Kenya. All right. We have over 300,000 Kenyans working in Saudi. So by and large, many livelihoods are dependent on the 300,000 people working there. We have communicated through diplomatic channels, and I'm aware of that report, to the Saudi government in the official manner to tell them that these concerns are becoming of grave concern to the Kenyan people and to Kenyans. We need to work together to be able to mitigate and make sure that there are no lives being lost as people come to work. Okay? So in that context, we are working together with the Saudi government. And I believe we will push, communicate until we find reasonable working environment so that we don't lose any more lives, including even one. That is what we want to be able to.
Because that's what the ambassador to Saudi Arabia seemed to say, that those are exaggerated. Maybe it's one, maybe it's less than 70.
No, absolutely.
So, what would be the response to that? Because these are Kenyans.
I've just responded. I've told you that we are working with the Saudi government. Okay? I've just explained. And I've said that we are aware of that report and we are communicating. Okay? So that, I hope...
so even if they're isolated incidents, as the embassy says?
I said, even if it is one, it's a matter of concern.
All right.
All right?
Reviewing the kafala system, because that's what Amnesty is calling for?
Now, that is a tough matter. That is something that Amnesty International must also take directly with the Saudi government.
Is the Kenyan government willing to do that on behalf of the close to 300,000 Kenyans who are working there?
We will work to make sure that the working environment for the Kenyans is as safe as it can be. That is our desire.
So the kafala system is not on the table for discussion? I'm asking.
We will talk to our people. The Amnesty International has an opportunity to engage directly with the Saudi government.
But so does the Kenyan government, was it?
Now, we can engage with them, but we cannot tell them to just scrap their way of life. We have to find out.
Even if that way of life is injurious to Kenyan citizens?
As long as it's injuring the Kenyans, we talk to it. And I've said we have a diplomatic process that we're going through. But I want to visit one other thing. Let us not look down upon domestic workers. There's a famous saying, kazi ni kazi. If you look at Philippines and how it has grown, you will not be saying the same thing about Kenyans.
The Philippines typically engages in what is called an au pair system with many countries in Europe. But the au pair rules, some would say, may not be perfect, but are certainly very different from things like the kafala system in Saudi Arabia.
Listen to me. The Philippines started with what you called as demeaning jobs. Because that is what you said. You called it low what?
It's the au pair system,
No, you called it low-level jobs. That's what you said.
Yes, and those are the ones. The reason I'm asking.
So what I'm trying to tell you.
The point here was, allow me to make this point.
What I'm trying to say is that let us respect those Kenyans, no matter what they're doing.
And that is exactly why people are asking questions of the Kenyan government, because particularly with...
You don't want me to finish because...
No, Waziri, let me say
because
this.
On this
the
one,
reason,
in this one, please respect the Kenyans who are working out there.
Kenyans want you to respect them as well, because when they're in those low-level jobs, then the higher the chances of being discriminated against, the higher the chances of being mistreated, because they may not have the rights that others would have. And that, I think, Waziri, is the biggest question. That we send people out to be domestic servants, which is not a job that is below them.
The sad thing,
but that
Yvonne,
at that level, Waziri,
the sad thing, Yvonne, is that you imagine that the Kenyan government is made of rocks. We are human beings. Some of the people working there are our relatives. We want them to be treated well.
Yet they're not, Waziri. So
we always engage in different countries. I've given you an example. We enter into bilateral labor agreements. We work so that we can continuously, using even the legal systems because we cannot wake up and change the laws in a particular country. So we negotiate agreements that give progressively better working environment and protection to Kenyans.
Waziri, just as we finish on this point, when you're sending out workers who are not getting paid as much and who have a higher chance of exploitation and discrimination, sexual abuse, as we hear them chronicling, and they give some very difficult stories to tell, is the question that Kenyans are asking today. That we're sending workers out, particularly those who may be more prone to discrimination and mistreatment in other countries, and what is being done, whether they're your relatives, Waziri, or not. You swore to protect all Kenyan lives, whether they're your relatives or not.
But please, Yvonne, that was a cheap shot. Let's look at it in context. Okay? Let's look at it in context. When I'm giving that example, look at the bigger picture that I'm referring it to. Okay? When we talk to Kenyans, when we talk to these countries, we also, before Kenyans leave, the ones who go through a process that the Kenya government is involved in, they are talked to, they are prepped, they are advised on what to expect, what to do and what not to do. We also tell them to make sure that they get in touch with the embassy, because many go and sometimes they don't want the embassy to know. They don't even give an indication that they're in that country. So we are encouraging them to make contact with our missions where they go, at least where we have a mission, so that we can intervene and help them when the need arises. That's what we do. So we don't just let them go. But one other thing that I've been putting across, and this one I speak because the ones who really migrate are young people. And I've been telling them that the moment you depart from Kenya, whether it is by sea or whether it is by air, if it is by sea, once the ship sails, if it is by air, once the wheels are up, the law that will apply is the law that becomes your host country, wherever you are going. So it is also important that we educate our young people. And I really want to appeal to you, members of the Fourth Estate. You are powerful. You have a mega outreach. Let us help the young people who go out to make very informed decisions collectively, because if you try to force them not to go, it's unconstitutional. They have to go. We have to show them that there are some certain fellows who specialize in human trafficking. They will lure you. Kenya has just evacuated so many Kenyans from a certain country because they fell into the trap. They went on their own volition. The government of Kenya did not send them there. But once they are there, it's the responsibility of the government of Kenya now to take care of their Kenyans. So we are going through a lot of issues. It's just that they're not there to be spoken to every day. But it is our job, and we shall continue doing it.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Waziri. Let's leave it at that. We could talk for hours. Yes. Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary in charge of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, thank you very much for making time for us here on The Explainer tonight, a variety of issues around the world and, of course, back in Kenya. Asante sana, Waziri. This is The Explainer. Let's take a break.
Thank you for staying the Monday.
Tunaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunaketi kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako. Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye
tonight. The show that gives